How's it going everyone? This is Tushar and today I have for you a comprehensive review of the iPhone XR. But before I go any further, I'll make it very clear that if you are in the market for an iPhone right now, the XR is the one you should be going for. Now, allow me to explain why. So even though the XR that we are reviewing right now is in a rather plain shade of white, you've got more vivid colors like red, coral and yellow. So if you're into vibrant colored phones, you've got options here. Now of course, these colors might remind you of the iPhone 5C way back from 2013. But remember, 5C was pretty much disliked for its plasticky build. However, the XR is very well built and its construction is almost on par with most flagship devices around. So the XR has a typical glass sandwich construction with an aluminium frame. Now of course, on paper, that aluminium frame is a bit less premium than the stainless steel one that you find on the XS. But remember that it's also much less prone to scratches, and also, at least in my opinion, it looks far better. In terms of size, the XR has a 6.1-inch LCD display. So in terms of the overall footprint, it's slightly smaller than the flagship XS Max. But keep in mind, it's not a small phone by any means. So if one-handed usage is your absolute priority, you must look at the XS or even the iPhone X from last year. So the resolution of the XR is 828 by 1792 pixels, which results in a pixel density of 3 to 6 pixels per inch. Now of course, that might be a bit controversial since it's not even full HD, but remember that most of the iPhone XR users will be upgrading from the previous iPhone 7 or the iPhone 8, and they will feel right at home here. Of course, if you're coming from the world of Android, it's natural for you to question that why a 76,000 rupees smartphone does not have a full HD display or even an OLED panel for that matter. But hey, that's how Apple works. They won't give you a premium OLED panel unless and until you're willing to spend over ₹1 lakh on the more premium XS. By LCD standards though, the screen is really good and you won't be able to make out much of a difference unless and until you are consuming really high quality content. One thing to note is that under direct sunlight, the screen is quite reflective. So display aside, the second main difference between the XS and the XR is that the latter does not have the secondary telephoto camera that you find on the XS. However, the primary camera is shared between both of the devices. However, most of you are not going to mind the absence of the telephoto lens, primarily because it's not used in many scenarios anyway. Plus, it's an inferior quality lens as compared to the main 12 megapixel camera. So optical zoom aside, many of you might be aware of the fact that all iPhones with dual cameras actually use the secondary telephoto lens to take portrait photographs. So what it does is it combines information from both the sensors to give realistic background blurs, or bokeh as you might call it. But since the iPhone XR does not have the secondary telephoto camera, it does everything with the primary camera itself. So it uses software to achieve more or less the same level of bokeh that you get from dual cameras on other iPhones. The end result is pretty impressive. The edge detection on the portrait shots is very good, and since all the portraits are taken on the primary camera itself, the field of view is much wider. There is one problem though. The thing is that the portrait mode on the iPhone XR constantly hunts for a face. So you cannot use the portrait mode on this phone on objects. You have to have a human in frame for the background blur to work. Other than that, it's the same primary camera as the iPhone XS, which means that it's one of the best mobile phone cameras around. It takes high quality photos with wide dynamic range and very true to life colors. Even low light photographs come out to be really good and there is no overprocessing whatsoever. Same goes for the 7 megapixel selfie camera. It takes really nice and social media worthy photographs, well, unless and until you decide to use the portrait mode on that. You see, the edge detection on the portrait mode on the front camera is just all over the place, and the portrait lighting mode in particular brings some pretty weird photographs. So it's best to avoid that. The XR can also shoot very well detailed and stabilized 4K videos up to 60 frames per second. All in all, if mobile photography is your primary agenda for buying the iPhone XR, then you will be really happy with it. So if you ask me what's the single greatest thing about the iPhone XR, then I have to go with its performance. You see, the XR may be the less expensive iPhone, but it's still powered by the latest and the greatest Apple A12 Bionic chip. And you know, the A12 is one of the fastest and one of the most energy efficient mobile processors around. The RAM on the XR is 3 GB. Of course, that does not sound like much on paper, but remember, software optimizations combined with the powerful chip more than make up for it. And remember, because of the lower res screen on the XR, the A12 Bionic chip here has to push much lesser pixels than the QHD screen on the XS. Therefore, everything is very smooth and very quick. It doesn't matter if you open up a very demanding application or you do quick multitasking. Everything goes super quick and the user experience is unmatched. Just like the 10s series, the 10R is also dual SIM. So you've got one physical SIM slot while the second SIM is an eSIM. So I had both the SIMs activated on my test unit and I had no problem with signal reception whatsoever. Even the call quality via the internal microphone is really good. So now you might ask, does the 10R have that all important full day battery life? Well, in most cases, yes. The 2942 mAh unit on the 10R is good enough to handle dual SIM dual standby and moderate to heavy usage for the whole day. However, if you are playing PUBG for 4 hours straight, well, then your mileage might vary. Now that we've talked about the battery life, I must also make a special mention of the bundled charger that comes with the iPhone 10R. Even though this phone supports fast charging, Apple has decided to supply only a 5-watt adapter with the phone. So, prepare to wait forever for your iPhone 10R to recharge fully from 0 to 100%. But hey, if you're a long-time iPhone user, you're probably used to it, aren't you? And just in case you want faster charging speeds, prepare to buy a MacBook adapter and a USB-C to Lightning cable, both of which are not going to come cheap. Alternatively, you can invest in a 10-watt wireless charger if wireless charging is your thing. Either way, you have to invest more money to get something that should have been standard in the first place. Talking of spending more money to get the basics covered, let me just remind you that Apple no longer includes a dongle inside the box to compensate for the lack of a headphone jack. So if you're into high-res wired audio, you have to purchase the dongle separately. So before we conclude, let's talk about the price. The iPhone 10R was launched in India at Rs 76,900. However, at the time of filming this video, the price has come down to Rs 59,900. Now that's quite a substantial price decrease. In fact, with the 10s series price so ridiculously high right now, it makes no sense to go for those phones unless and until an OLED display and a telephoto camera are really high on your priority list. The 10R offers similar level of performance and almost the same camera finish at a much more realistic price. So, as I said at the beginning of this video, if it's an iPhone you want to buy right now, it's the 10R that you should be looking at. Finally, if you're flexible about the choice of the operating system, then you can have a look at the Samsung Galaxy S10, Google Pixel 3 and even the Huawei P30. Thanks a lot for watching. We are a new channel and we need your support, so make sure you support us by hitting the subscribe button below. Also, don't forget to visit dynamicdistrict.in every day for your daily fix from the world of cars, bikes and gadgets. You guys have a great day. Bye.